most of the part we work by palette knife and make texture on top. I have these 4 palette knife, which is 2 of them smaller and 2 of them is bigger. They're so similar each other. These 2 are same as each other, and these 2 are the same shape. And it doesn't matter if you have just 1 or 2 would be okay. The smaller one, it's more easier for tiny part, for the details, but already we can work by the bigger one and just work with the tip of this palette knife. Same as brush, we have palette knife with 2 sides, left and right. We have whole parts of the palette knife to work with, like whole brushes, like this whole brush. And we have tip of the palette knife to work like the tip of brush, and both sides exactly like the side of our brushes. Okay, paper palette and white color we need. And one difference we need to know about the palette knife working is we need more paint to add because it's absorbed and we need to make texture, so we need more paint to use. White, black, and brown. I go with this brown. With one side of palette knife, I prefer to go with this side. I start to take my paint with one side here, and then start to cover whole my palette, whole my surface with this paint. And it's look like brush, so you can go and back and cover your surface like that. Again, take your paint with one side. You see, with one side, I take my paint and I put on my surface and try to go and back and make a flat surface. And then color all my background. Even you can bring it from top to bottom, but make sure not to pressure a lot, because if you add a pressure, you can lift up some paint. I don't want. I really smoothly, I try to cover the background. I can move on with the darker tone, which is this one. The bottom part, I mentioned it's darker, and we don't want to have the line between these two to make them separate from each other. So it's better to move on the top part and let both color fade into each other. From this darkness, bring it on top a little bit, and with the lighter tone, bring it on the bottom part to help two color fade into each other and not let it the line create between them. So I want to make different tone and value because it has some lighter tone, warm tone, and a little darker tone. So I keep this one as a dark tone of my tree. I add a little bit brown into that. More brown because I want to show that my trunk of tree is warmer. This is the darker value I want, and then the lighter one, I bring it here. I take some of this, I can add with the white to reach lighter tone. So same color, I take a little bit, bring it here, and add lots of white into that. This is the light tone. I think this one is not enough because I have trunk of tree again. I need to premix more. White, black, brown. But you can play with the amount of white color. If you add more, you can have this lighter tone. If you add less white and more black and brown, you can have darker tone. So these two colors are okay. You can see here it's lighter than the background, even this one. And here it's so much light, but it's not white color. So I take this from one side of my palette knife, withhold the palette knife, withhold the, I don't say it's right or left, but just one side. Start from here, put it on your surface and move it toward left. Very gently, because we would like to make a texture. Even you can bring it back from the other side, but make sure to not lose the line. Very gently take your paint, move it from left to right, and make a texture. Even you can use the tip of your palette knife to make some movement like this, like curvy line as a texture, like this. And then take again more. This time a little bit less. This time bring it here. Cover. Start here, cover it. The thickness is important to make it by your palette knife. Even, you see, I added lots of paint here. You can use the tip, bring it back, and play the texture of the tree to make, like a curve. Or even put your palette knife like this and make it more clean. I know it's heavy paint, but you can go on back and make it very gently with very less pressure, make it look like a trunk of tree. Even if the edges is not clean, doesn't matter. You can make it more clean with a brush, or even with one side of palette knife, try to help it like this. Bring it like a line and make it clean. Very gently bring it down, and when you come down, our trunk of tree, it gets thicker. The top part, it's more narrow, but the bottom part is more thick. I bring from right to the left and from left to the right. Take with one side. Start from one side, which is the right side of your tree. Move it toward left. Very gently and smoothly, because we would like to keep the texture on top. With tip of my palette knife smaller than the other part. So this time, very less space. I have to add my tone. Very gently. All this happen very gently, because if you add a pressure on your hand, you can lift up the first paint. Smoothly, like touching your hand, really smooth. Same. Smoothly touch your trunk of tree and bring some light tone somewhere. Not everywhere, somewhere it would be fine. Even a little bit more here. And make a curve actually with this light tone. Try to make the trunk of tree a little bit similar, the curve shape. Even we have the curve style here, like that. Again, I go with the tip. Move it curve shape and add some tone somewhere of, you can choose a little bit top, a little bit on the center. Or even you can work with the texture, take heavy paint and add a little bit heavy paint on top and then leave it to get dry. This is the darker brown. Again, clean my palette knife with the tip. The small part, I take some and I bring a little darker tone under my white color. A little here. You see, I don't cover whole the part. I just try to add a little tone on top of my trunk tree. Even play with somewhere like that, adding some here. I have a stroke or palette knife stroke here. Randomly, I play with my stroke. With the other side, start from here, bring it to the center. Start from here, with a curve movement, bring it to the center. So the same, I start with this one side of my palette knife. I adding my trunk of tree first here. And even you see, when I add, the other side is not exactly with the line and clean. I just leave it like this. It's fine. After I finish with one side, again, clean my palette knife. Back to the other side of palette knife, take heavy paint and start to make a little bit thicker and make it cleaner for the edges of the trees. And then again, back clean it. Start with this light tone. For the light tone, I use tip of my palette knife, the smaller one, the smaller part. And start to letting one side of my trunk tree move into lighter tone, and very gently I try to movement similar the curve shape to the other side. And then clean my brush, sorry, palette knife, and need some really darker tone. To have some tiny bit details. Even if you're not happy with one part, it's okay. You can lift up some paint or add another paint on top. This is one branch, so I add here like that, and it's heavy paint, doesn't matter, I leave it like this, very gently, just like a line. We need to put our side of our palette knife like this side, like this side. If you have palette knife like that, we need to put our edges on our surface. So take less paint, not much. For example, I add one here. I would like to add another like here. And it depends how we have some. It's randomly spread everywhere. You can add some like this, like that, and then like this, like a line. With the light tone, again back and make it here a little thicker. Most of the time when it's reached to the trunk tree, it's a little bit thicker than the top part. So where's the place of, yeah, here is a bird. And then for the other side, you can change your part of the palette knife to this side and take some paint with that part, with this part. It's really heavy, so I put it here, and again, very less I take. And now I would like to add some line like here. Sometimes it's happen, make the broken line, would be fine, it's okay. Again, back, take some paint. Again, adding here. Even if you do it a little bit thick, doesn't matter, we can cover it by some leaves, so no worries about that. Or even if you don't want to add the leaves, you can make the background color and cover it. So we always have a chance to fix it. Like that. And some I would like to add like here. Even I like the broken line that it made by palette knife. I make this a little thicker because I want to show it's connect to my tree. And how much we have? I can add one here and one there. The other side. Make it thicker, clean it by napkin. And now I want to add a little darker than that. For example, here is the place of these two birds, it's a little darker. So I take one with dark tone. I can imagine one bird should be on the bottom part, one on top, which is so interesting in the painting. So I add tone here, darker tone. Move it like this to pass from the tree and reach, and this is another branch. It's a little bit curvy, so I try my best to make the line curvy by palette knife. And you see, I start with small line to make this curve. So I take less paint and try to use smaller line to make this curve. Reach here. And then they continue because most of the part it's covered by leaves. I imagine should be passed from here and pass from this side of my tree. Even pass from this tree too. And you see they're not a complete line. They are sometimes broken line. I have some here and there. So I do one of them here and the other one here. So I choose the black with my small and pointy brush, dilute it into the paint. I know it's look like oval shape, so I try to shape it like this, but here a little bit bigger, and then move on like that. The tail is passed from this side of the tree, and it's still wet, it's fine. Make it darker, the shape of my bird's head. This is the place of death. The neck part here. Head is a little bit circular shape. And then I move on to make it just a bit gentle C curve on the back. And more C curve here on the chest. And I know it's covered by the white color, that's fine. And here is the black of his foot that is around this tiny branch. Tail would be here. And I know here is wet. If I want to cover the head, the wet part by paint, I need to take more paint, so heavy paint. And very less pressure, very gently. Try to add this black color on top of the wet surface. Again, heavy paint. Very gently try to add. For the darkness, I take my brown. I take this color, a little bit, mix them together, so it's a darker gray color, darker gray and brown. I take my brush stroke. I would like to make this shape, actually separate the wing. So I start with this dark color from here, move it like that. It's light, I need more black to add. Again, heavy paint, C-curve, heavy paint, C-curve, and move it like this to make it separate. Brown into that, but should be really light. So take heavy paint, try to add some brush stroke here, heavy paint, and chest is more light. So very gently and smoothly I touch my bird's body with this light tone and try to make a texture. Where I need here in the face, a little bit, and 1 or 2 strokes on the back. So I take my reddish brown, which is burnt sienna. If you don't have it, you can add a little bit black into your red color and make something close to burnt sienna. I don't say it's burnt sienna, but it's so close. Now the base of my leaves is a little bit close to orangey browny. It's not really this red color and warm red color. So I just add this red to make it this reddish brown more adding to the red to make another color, another value tip. Or if you have a smaller palette knife, more easy, you can use half of your small size of your palette knife. I start with dark color, which is this reddish brown. Tip of my palette knife, start to moving, shape it like that. Heavy paint, take heavy paint, start to adding some heavy paint, move it around. It's okay to move it randomly like that, but in somewhere, please a little bit be accurate to shape similar the leaves. And please do it really heavy to see this texture. This is one leaf. Let me bring it close to camera to see how much is heavy. To adding something close to this shape. So it's one movement here by adding, and I try to shape my stroke like that. The shape of fall or autumn leaves look like this. Like a maple leaf, or even move it here. Texture with one side with tip, cover it, move it here. And we move it toward the lightness, so I take some reddish color here. I randomly add this reddish color. And then this light color I would like to bring. So, clean my palette knife. I switch to orange, bring some, randomly adding some movement. You see, I just adding some orange around and try to make a heavy paint like that. Just like this. Or, and the other way. Try to do it like that. Just go randomly with the stroke on top. And then clean my palette knife. Take some yellow, adding some yellowy tone here. And bring, if you're not happy with the color of yellow, you can bring again orange on top and cover it, or even like that. And all this happen when you use very less pressure and gently play with the color and tone. With the brown, I try to shape maple leaf. It's like this shape a little bit. And then adding the red color here. And somewhere red, this red that I mix with the brown, it's so lovely. I can add more. we already have that darkness and we already have the beautiful warm color with this mixture of red and brown.